Hi, I'm Dr. Robert Wolf, Rob Wolf. You can call me Rob. I'm a neuroradiologist, recently retired, and I have the pleasure today of meeting with a fellow Michigander, Kim. Uh, she does a wonderful podcast. She's a great personality. She's giving back to the community. She helps out Haiti, pro bono, and Western Africa. She loves people. She's more into love than hate, as am I, and I'm very, very grateful that she's having me on this amazing program. I couldn't ask for more, and I hope to stay in touch with Kim. And I hope you enjoy the program, and I hope you buy our story, Not a Real Enemy.
Welcome to the show. I'm so happy that you're here. I'm Kim Sorrelle. I'm an author. I'm a speaker. I get to do a lot of really fun things in life, but my favorite by far is meeting interesting, wonderful people. Today is no exception. You're going to love my guest. We've been chatting before we're going on air, and I already love him. In fact, I want him to take me out for dinner or something. So you're going to love him, I promise you. And his story is absolutely incredible. He is an author. He's a doctor who graduated from University of Michigan, which is in my home state. Yay, go blue.
Go
And
blue.
yeah. So a neuroradiologist who has written a book. I don't think there's a lot of those out there, so I'm excited, unless it's a textbook, and this is not. So I just want to say, Dr. Robert Wolf, welcome to my show.
Thank you, Kim. I appreciate it. It's such a pleasure being here and an honor. And it's so nice to chat with a fellow Michigander. I'm wearing my Lions shirt in honor of this too. They had a pretty good year, a couple of years, and I appreciate the invitation. It's really kind of you, and I look forward to sharing with you as well.
Yeah. Well, great. I'm so glad that you're here. So, Rob, I want to know. I always think that people should know you. I believe people should know who you are, and then they'll understand a lot more about why they need to buy your book and why they need to follow you and why they need to have you come and speak and all of those kinds of things, because they do. People, you need to buy this book. You're gonna love this. So first, I want to start out with, tell me about 8-year-old Rob.
8-year-old, I guess that was the last year I was a good kid. I started well, we didn't have the term tweens back in the day, because tween is I mean, you have kids, you said, so you know what a tween is. But I was a pretty good kid up until I don't know. I was a pretty good kid. I was raised well. I was educated. 8 years old was the first year I took piano lessons. Interestingly, so I took piano lessons for 8 years up through junior year of high school. So Hebrew school plus school. A lot of friends in the neighborhood, more girls than guys, but over time I had more guy friends between junior high school and high school, playing sports, et cetera, et cetera. My parents were great. They raised me. They raised me well. I'm lucky. If you don't have good parents, if you don't have good family, you've got nothing. That's and your health, of course, too. Like my dad always used to say. So bar mitzvah at 13, Mount Clemens, Michigan, born in Detroit, and K through 12 in Mount Clemens. So I was a good kid, good teenager, I guess, almost too good. Sports, academia, wanting to go to medical school because of my dad, who was an OBGYN. Here's the punchline. He delivered 10,000 babies in the Detroit area in a shortened 24-year career, and we call that redemption. He couldn't bring back his parents and the millions of people who died in World War II. Not only the 6 million, but also 50 million people died in World War II, not to mention under communist Hungary. But it is a form of redemption. At least he brought life back to the world, and I was very proud of him. And I didn't like OBGYN as a specialty myself. I'm a radiologist, recently retired, but I did. He was my hero. He was my role model. So by ninth grade, that's what I wanted to do, was become a doctor. And fortunately, I was lucky to do that and have a long career.
Wow. Yeah. I love hearing that. So many people complain about their parents. In fact, my kids do. I'm writing a book right now about all the ways my kids tell me I screwed up and what they would do differently, which is so fun to write, I have to say. They hate it that I'm writing it, but if they're going to complain about me, I might as well use it for something. So it is a blast to write.
You're
But
not
I
the
love
only
it.
one. You're not the only one.
But I love it that you talk so highly of your folks, and that you recognize what great role models they were. And man, they came from some tough places. So you must have done well in high school. Where did you go to where'd you do undergrad?
I went to Tufts University in near Boston. I remember the day, one of the worst days of my life was in high school when I got rejection letters on the same day from Harvard, Stanford, Yale, and Princeton, all on the same day. So it was a day to cry. But I did get into Michigan, Tufts and Northwestern, and I chose Tufts because a friend of mine got into Michigan. He was brilliant. He was valedictorian. I was salutatorian. We were best friends though too. You know, he wrestled, I swam. We were tennis partners. We made all state our senior year, so that was a cool thing too. But I went to Tufts just to get away from him because he got into that integrated 6-year pre-med med program, and I don't know if I could have handled that the pressure of seeing him already in med school while I'm struggling away. So Tufts had a good reputation, and I was fortunate enough to go there, and then University of Michigan Medical School ultimately. And so he was my big brother. You know, I was 2 years behind him, but all the research he did and fellowships he did, I mean, I caught up over the years, and he's still working. He's chief at in Western Michigan. He's chief of the medical school at the chief of surgery in Kalamazoo. So
Oh,
great
wow.
guy, great guy.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Tufts and then Michigan. To expound a little, I did my internship in Boston, near Boston, Framingham Hospital. It's called Metro West now, Boston University affiliate. And fortunate enough to do my radiology residency at Brown and my neuroradiology fellowship at Yale. Now I'm 30 and my indentured servantry is done finally, so I get a real job. And I've worked in Massachusetts and Michigan. Half my life I've lived in Michigan, half in New England, and now Southern Florida for about 5 or 6 years. So, and very recently retired, 35 years in, 44 when you include all of that college and training, et cetera, et cetera. It was long, and it's 44 years of sweat. I mean, when you say, "Oh, it's 44 years," that's just a number. It's a lot of sweat, you know, like 10,000 babies. That's a lot of sweat, you know. Or
Right.
how do you put my dad's life or my life or anybody's in a 400-page book? You know, it's just not. But kudos to you for finding material to write about, because I always say everybody has a story in them, Holocaust and otherwise, perilous, harrowing, or comedic, whatever you choose to do.
Absolutely. So true. So true. By the way, I have a son who's an actor. He went to UT Southwestern and could have gone to U of M. He got into pretty much everywhere, but he got his PhD at UT Southwestern, so he stayed there for med school. And the medical profession isn't so easy. You know, it's tough. The whole match day where you're on pins and needles. Am I getting into the school that I want to get into? You know, and U of M is huge, great, great, great medical school. My granddaughter is a senior in high school. She goes there next year to U of M engineering.
Congratulations, good for her.
Maybe med school. Yeah. So it's a great school, and it is a long road. It's a long road between residency and fellowships and all the things that you do before you're like, okay, now I want to go where I can go be somebody's partner somewhere.
Talk about being insecure. Now you're insecure, and you realize when you go to college, you get into medical school, you don't know squat. In the second half of medical school, you don't know squat. Then your residency, you don't know squat. Fellowships, same thing. And even when you're out in the working world, it's 5-10 years before you have any kind of real confidence, because there's no substitute for experience. And I tell kids that too. There are good alternatives: nurse practitioner, physician's assistant. I know there's a lot of attempts to bring healthcare costs down. Now I'm on the wrong end of the needle. I've got a lot of people to apologize to because I've been a patient recently with some serious illness. I'm back on my feet, thank God. But that's tough too, being a patient in the way it is, and the expensive of it all, and the bureaucracy and the red tape, and a growing population, and the demographics and aging population. And the more the treatments we have for like heart disease and cancer and HIV, the more people are going to live longer. But that's more visits to the hospital and doctors' offices. So yeah, it's spiraling up, but also is the demand for doctors in this country. So I hope they stay with it. It's very gratifying once you've done it and gotten through it, and you look back and you're in your 30s and 40s and you're hopefully healthy with a thriving practice, and that's what we all hope for. I've been bumped around a little too. Another crying day was I didn't get into ophthalmology through the match twice, and 20 people applied for ophthalmology out of my class. 20 otorhinolaryngology, 20 ortho. I mean, there was like 4 specialties, 20 people each, and our class was only about 180. Only about 7 or 10 tried to get into internal medicine. That's another discussion in another book. But anyway, they were very popular specialties, and I must have been the only one in my class who didn't get into ophthalmology. I would have been a neuro-ophthalmologist, but the path that took me to neuroradiology was just as good. And No regrets here. But there are going to be bumps and disappointments, and possible lawsuits, patient complaints. As a radiologist, rarely you hear, "Oh, you're doing a great job," and this and that. Maybe on your first day or your first week, but then the complaints start to come in. This report's too long. It's too short. Can you do an addendum and this and that? Getting humiliated in conference. That's not a fun thing. We talk about these socially awkward situations, those medical conferences. They can be socially awkward. So it's not all great, but most of it is. And in another book, I would that would be the whole gamut is the range: pre-med, medical, anatomy, lawsuits, investing, writing books, that kind of thing. So it entails a lot. It's a very complex career.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm glad that you're mentioning it. We've just been through this COVID time where more people ended up in the hospital than ever. And
Crazy.
people have dealt with the medical system, right? And some people sing the medical system's praises, and other people are like, what is going on with our medical system? And when it comes down to it, like I look at my son, who first got his PhD, cancer researcher, then decided to get an MD so he can actually talk to human beings, and is doing it, right? Like he's helping people. And I know his heart, and his heart is to help people. And doctors that I know personally, it is about serving people, about helping people. It's not just a paycheck or a whatever. I mean, there's easier ways to get a paycheck than being a doctor. And so, I think we all need to keep in mind that people have our best intentions in mind. For the most part, everybody does. And that we should be kind to medical professionals and supportive and happy that they're there and that they've taken that long journey to get to where they are. And so I'm grateful for everything that you've done, Rob. Thank you for your service.
It's my pleasure. I'm glad I helped thousands of people, but like you said, you compensated for it, but a lot of sacrifices your first, I'm not even talking about high school, but that's another 4 years of tough times. I mean, it was fun, but I can't say easy, but you're right. I appreciate you saying that. One time, well, I've had a lot of those with writing the book, but it was really nice once I did my first of two-day book signings at the Holocaust Museum in DC. And the kindest thing and I met so many great people, kids and families talking about genocide and anti-Semitism, and I could do that every day. But two of the nicest things were one person said to me, "Thank you for your service." And I never really regarded it as fighting anti-Semitism and sharing the stories as a service, but I guess it kind of is too. And the other one was said, "Sorry for your losses," or "Sorry for your loss," which these are grandparents that I never met that passed. And my mom's grandfather too was a rabbi, a real threat to society. He also perished at Auschwitz. So people that said that to me, it's heartwarming. It makes me feel glad that I'm doing what I'm doing. This journey.
Yeah, absolutely, and I sure am glad you're doing what you're doing, because there is this, I don't know, this racism, this anti-Semitism, this anti-whoeverism that still exists in our world. It's not something I understand. I have to say, I just read a really great book, Caste. I don't know if you've read it, by Isabel Wilkerson. So good, so good, so good. She compares Nazi Germany and India, the caste system in India, with the US. Because we really do live in a caste system. We have a hierarchy, and people are treated a certain way depending on their religion, their color, their whatever. And it shouldn't be that way. People are people, and we should just admire the fact that everybody is different, and right.
And the level of wealth, one explanation, like for Gaza, for example, is poverty. And, the rise of fascism was during the Depression, the World Depression, which hit Hungary hard. But Germany decided to build up the war machine, the military war machine. So that's how Hitler took advantage of that, and his cronies, his colleagues. But you're right. I've been poverty from the wrong end of the dollar, the wrong end of the mark, or the Hungarian forints. Then you're more apt to come along to just so that, and you're more apt to complain. You're more apt to protest. You're more apt to commit crimes. Of course, we see it, and that's all around the world, of course. But Gaza was brutal, and of course the Holocaust was brutal too, and many other times in between. Death marches in the Pacific, death marches in Europe with the forced labors that not a lot of people know about. So there's that too. So many. We can go back to Exodus too. 400 years in bondage. It's that time of year. I mean, come on, 400 years of slavery. So, and not just in Egypt, Rome. They talk about the Colosseum. 50,000 Jewish people built that. So that's what I last heard. I don't know. Masada, where the Jews were fighting the Romans. That was a prolonged war. They were outnumbered. Just so many cases. And then African Americans in the 60s and 70s, the race riots, the civil rights movement, so much effort over, even after the Civil War, just so much effort and really unnecessary. I have a lot of friends that are African American, Jewish, Muslim, Christian, Asian, as did my parents, Hindu. There's no doubt. And I wanted to say my high school was 40% African American. I was one of only 3 Jews in my high school. So, but we all got along. I mean, there was trash talking and bullying and that kind of thing. But in the end, we left it on the field. We weren't protesting and calling for the death of our country or death of this country or each other, that kind of thing. Big difference. Keep the trash talk on the football field, the basketball court, whatever. And as always, you leave high school with a lot of friends that you hate to leave. Same with college, same with medical school. And doesn't it always seem to work out? Your best friends or the people you like the most, you meet with just a limited time left in your stay before you have to move on. And that's too bad too. It's an experience that I've had a multitude of times. Residency, all of that fellowship. But there's no room for racism or anti-Semitism in my profession, and there's really no room for it if people would just, accountability. If people would just read up on history and know what's going on instead of just listen to TikTok or false news and false hatred. I can't stand I'm not a sheep. I mean, these people sometimes are sheep, and do something different with your life is a lesson I always say. Change your vector. If you don't like what's going on, change your job, go part-time, write a book, write a poem, write an opera, give back to the community, volunteer somewhere, go to the library, read a book, see a movie, spend more time with your family. There's other ways and because life is short, it's our only commodity. Money, stocks, bonds, real estate, crypto, those are the only commodity. Those are all man-made things and temporary. The only commodity is life and time. So use your time well, give back. Don't be destructive. Don't try to stop kids from getting educated because they're Jewish. I wouldn't do that, and I'd take my kid right out of a school that would do that. And how many people want to go to Harvard and Columbia, myself included. I mean, I was lucky to be at Brown and Yale, but it took many, many years later. And you would give anything to go to a school like that and get out. And people they're using it in the wrong way. The protests and trying to blockade professors and students from learning is just not the right way to go.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Too often we try to interfere in other people's lives. And I think what it really comes down to is that we are so much more the same than we are different. And often it takes getting out of your bubble. You're saying, go volunteer, go do this, go do something, right? Well, volunteering gets you out of your bubble and changes your perspective on things. When you go and you help other people, it gets you outside of yourself and does things to you. It's the greatest healer of grief. It's the greatest healer of ego. It's the greatest healer of so many different things. Go volunteer, go help people, go serve in your job, go serve in wherever you are. And it makes such a big difference in your life. But I struggle with the separation of people. I struggle with that because when you meet somebody who's in a camp that you've labeled, right? Like we're the ones that put labels on people. We're the ones that do that. People are not their labels. People are people. You're Rob, I'm Kim, right? But we put these labels on people and then we judge people according to the labels. Well, that's not how love works. That's not how humanity should ever work. You might belong to a club, you might have a heritage, you might have whatever it is, but you're not defined by your label. You're a person, you're a fellow human being. And when you get to know people outside of your bubble and you go, wow, my friend, a Muslim, wow, they're Muslim and they're a wonderful person. Yeah, they are. So get outside your bubble, go meet some people. I agree, Rob. Everything that you're saying is absolutely true. And that's how the world is going to change, I believe, is by loving each other and stopping.
It's the only way. We don't have a chance. It's the only way. We don't need a World War III. We got to work on getting more supply, more water, more food to people, all of that. I mean, no doubt about it. No doubt. A lot of issues. We talk about food, shelter, clothing. For us, not being enough. Giving back to community, religion, sometimes a vacation, career, family. But back in my mom and dad's day, when they were struggling, trying to just survive, food, shelter, and clothing were everything. So big difference. We have that privilege, we have that luxury, and I don't get political, but when people badmouth, like from Officer and Gentleman, what does he say? Smoking dope and badmouth in your country, whatever. Louis Gossett Jr., I think it was. Phenomenal part. Don't do that. I mean, try to appreciate you got to vote for your president, you got to vote for your senator and your congressman. It wasn't like that under dictatorships or communism. And it still resonates in, North Korea, Iran, Russia still hasn't changed. I talk about Russia with the Ukraine war, not changing much over 50, 60, 70 years, that kind of thing. People have rights and they're afraid. And that's part of the thing too. Money is a big thing. Poverty is a big thing, but also being afraid of stepping out and stepping because you're on the wrong end of the gun, the wrong end of the knife, the wrong end of the tank, whatever the case may be. So there are a lot of factors to it, but I agree. You need to reach out to people. My parents did, and I do the same. Quick anecdote: one of my best talks was one of my best friends from ninth grade is a Greek Orthodox priest in Arizona, and my college buddies and I, we flew out to see another friend who's my best friend since freshman year in college, Saki. He's also a world-class squash player. And he still teaches squash, and Arizona was a lovely state. So Saki, my Muslim friend, is my assistant for a Greek Orthodox Church book presentation that had lots of kids, a lot of young people, and that was so gratifying. So there's a lesson in that. I could do that with him every day too, if given the opportunity. Just such embracement and such love, and hopefully more of that. That's what I do. That's my charge and mission is, and people should follow people like Jesus and Gandhi and Moses and Noah and MLK rather than these bad leaders. These leaders. That's a good start too. Look within ourselves, because leadership starts from within ourselves too. We could all be a leader in our own way. Reach out to a neighbor is another thing. Get to know. Bring in your neighbor a gift. Invite them to lunch. Whatever the case may be.
Exactly. And by the way, on the sort of other side of that, if you're hanging out with people who are bringing you down, if you're hanging out with wrong people, they're gonna bring you down to a level that you don't want to be. You don't have to keep hanging out with them. Find new friends, find people that are going to make you better. Like I always want to be surrounded by people that are going to make me better, that are going to open my eyes to more, show me more, and just make me a better human being so that my contribution here is better, so that my life is better and what I do to help change the world increases. And so, sometimes you get stuck in a rut and you're with people that are bringing you down. You don't have to be. There's so many people in the world. Just, break away and get with people that are going to bring you up. So your story is so incredible. And that's one of the things, as you're talking and as I'm hearing everything that you're saying that I so agree with, a lot of it stems, a lot of where we are today is because of what we've been through in our lives, right? And you've been through more, your family has experienced more than a lot of families have experienced in life. And then you've taken the time to tell us about it, and in telling us, trying to change the world, right? Which I admire so much, Rob. I think that is so great. So tell the story. I would love to hear the story about your family.
Okay, well, I'm going to start with the history of the book, if you don't mind, if you bear with me.
Absolutely.
My mom and dad, well, the book is a biography. It's called Not a Real Enemy, the true story of a Hungarian Jewish man's fight for freedom. May I show a picture of the book? May I show what the book
absolutely.
was?
Please do.
I don't want to be too.
No.
So you can see it's won 4 awards, and I'm going to start with saying that because I don't even know what to do with that. I'm not the type. It's gratifying, but I'm not big into self-congratulations. I don't like patting myself on the back. It does mean that people realize it's good quality work. People in the know, people that do this for a living, editors and readers, beta readers, and they know the importance of the work as well, the quality and the importance. So those are 2 important things. But if it doesn't help me in the fight against anti-Semitism, none of that means anything. So that's an important point to make. And also I got to attribute my team, my co-author Janice Harper. Also, she went to Michigan State. She's another fellow Michigander now in Washington. If it weren't for her, we wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have all that. And the team as a whole, my publisher, Amsterdam Publishers, we got her bottom of the 9th, shoestring catch. Very fortunate. And Janice helped me. She's a book coach, a writer. She's another PhD, and my whole team. Mark, the guy who's been with me on the journey throughout. This has been now a 6-7 year journey. He also designed my website. He taught me all the socials. and book my book cover. The guy was from Croatia, so it's what a great team. And if it weren't for that, so yeah, that's the other part is be part of the team. That's in medicine. That's all, not just sports, anything, MBA, whatever the case may be. So, sorry, I digress a little, but I just wanted to bring that up. So, Not a Real Enemy is a biography about my dad. It's an adventure. It's a history book about Hungary from the end of World War I to the end of the Hungarian Revolution in '56. Not a lot of people know about that war. Not a lot of people know about the history of Hungary in the Holocaust and forced labor camps. So, um, and then it's a trials and tribulations. The book is a trials and tribulations of my dad's family, and good and bad. The book is sad. The book is happy. You can't put it down, and you put yourself in my dad's place. And this is why he wrote an autobiography in the '70s when my parents finally emigrated to the United States. This was '56, '57, and my dad redid his residency in OBGYN in Boston at Beth Israel, I might add, which is a Harvard affiliate, and I couldn't get into any Harvard residency now in any specialty, but God bless him, barely spoke English. I had to learn English in elementary and high school while my mom did research. My mom was in medical school in Hungary, and she was 13 months away from graduating when they left, and she never got to go back because they needed to live somewhere and eat while my dad had to redo his residency. So flash forward now. So we're talking about 50s, early 60s. My dad finishes his OBGYN, no jobs in Boston, so they end up in Detroit. When they finally got settled in the '70s, my dad wrote his autobiography. He put his chronicles, his memoirs. A memoir to me, or what I've learned over the years, is just one little segment of time, like my time in Auschwitz or whatever the case may be. This is an autobiography because he went all the way from his childhood, even his parents, their childhood, but which he didn't have a lot of information about that, all the way to the. And so in the '70s they did the autobiography, and they wrote the stories as though they'd happened the previous day. It was crisp and clear. You could see how the table was set. You could feel the cold. You could smell the food. You could hear the radio going. And you felt the fear. You could feel the fear. So instead of empathizing, you felt like you were my dad. And so the autobiography was in the '70s, and it was pencil and paper to typewriter to computer to disc. And I read it once, the manuscript, maybe when I was about 30. Didn't think much of it at the time, although I did remember my dad's first of 4 escapes in my head, but I didn't remember most of the rest of it. So flash forward, 1997, my dad passes away, unfortunately. 2016, my mom passes away, unfortunately. A historian friend in Michigan hands me the disc. It's now on a disc, and she says, "You got to read this. You got to look at the story." Didn't think of much of it at the time. I took a year to take care of my mom's affairs. Then I took a year of retirement after 19 years of part time, which is pretty good. That helped me survive burnout, by the way. So I retired for a year, and then in 2018, a friend called me, and never burn your bridges, another lesson. A former partner of mine calls me up and says, "Look, we're short radiologists. Can you work Wednesdays and Thursdays? Can you work part-time doing X-ray and ultrasound?" That's the job I just retired from last year. So I've been doing that for quite a while. But the important thing about it brought me to the book. And so as a radiologist, we have a left screen and a right screen. The left screen is the patient queue. The right screen are the images. So I'm dictating cases, and in between cases, I reloaded my dad's story, and I said, "Oh my God, this cannot stay on a computer. This cannot stay on a disc." So I'm reading his. I'm writing it down as a biography, actually dictating it with the fidelity. I'm trying to keep the fidelity as close as possible. Some changes in the history. Believe me, we did a lot of research about the history, including outside professors, even a retiree from the Holocaust Museum in DC. So we made sure that, and then his English a little bit off. So we really turned it into something special. Initially, it was kind of a boring biography. It was dad, A to B to C. Dad was born, dad did this. But my co-author really turned it into a special thing, a novel, parallel stories, converging stories, in and out of order, conversations, letters to and from home, cloak and dagger stories, but all based on what my dad had said. And they wrote the stories as though they had happened the previous day. And here we are. I mean, it was so motivating just to see what I couldn't stop doing it. Like I was doing 1 page at a time, 2, but before I moved down here to Florida, I was doing 10, 15 pages a day just to get the thing done and get it out to editors and move it along. So we did. It's just been an amazing journey, meeting great people like you, people who care, people who give a bleep, people who it means something to me. That's one of the best parts of the journey, like you said, is meeting great people. And and while fighting anti-Semitism and racism. A while back, another colleague, Lisa Tenner, she's an author and a book coach from Rhode Island, and she hooked me up with Janice. I can't thank her enough for that, and she helped me with obtaining the awards. And but she said to me back in the day, when you query publishers, don't mix up racism and anti-Semitism, because there's a difference, and you'll get less credibility by doing that. I disagreed then, and I really disagree now. I think it's all kind of the same thing, and it's all hate, and it's all what is Morgan Freeman in Driving Miss Daisy, always going to be the same people, when they destroy her synagogue. So and it's still going on now. And one joke about my parents, to go back to what you said about your kids, is they wrote these stories. And if you knew me 6 years ago, 7 years ago, you'd say, this guy would never, I had Holocaust fatigue, Holocaust burnout. You'd say, this guy would never rate the story, never share the story. But my parents wrote them for me as though they knew that I'd be doing this. And don't you hate it when your parents are right? So that's my joke. Maybe that's not so funny for you, but they'll realize someday. Trust me, the kids will realize someday. So.
Yeah, well, and I'm really close with my kids, so I kind of joke about it, but they are really good, like gold star, gold medal good at letting me know the times that I messed up as a mom.
Well, majority, yeah.
Which you're going to, I guess.
I've argued with my mom plenty, but it was tough love. Believe me, tough love. Big arguments, and my mom and dad used to argue, but other than that, no signs of PTSD. By the way, no, you would never know what my parents went through. My dad, by their demeanor, they loved people. He loved his work. He would have worked till the day he died if he could, and that's so inspiring too. Just knowing that. So no family's perfect. I had a little bit of a helicopter mom. I still loved her. Like back to piano lessons. Thank God they made me do that, because I have such music appreciation now. I kind of wish I stuck with it and maybe played in a local band or something. But I've been to many concerts. A couple, I saw Fish last year in your beautiful town, Grand Rapids, and I've been about 350 shows, not including local stuff. And I can appreciate a lot more because I played an instrument, because I understand more about music, and it's fascinating to me. And I'm still learning stuff about it even today. Thank you, Mom, for that. Thank you, Mom, for bar mitzvah. And that was pretty harrowing. Piano lessons, bar mitzvah lessons, and school. That was tough, but I did it, and they pushed me a little bit. But I wouldn't want it any other way. If I had to rewind the clock, thank God for that. So it means a lot. And my dad, every time he wasn't working, he loved to spend it with me. Not a big sports fan, but took me to all the Detroit games, the Tigers at the old Tiger Stadium, the Red Wings at Olympia, Cobo Hall, where the Pistons used to play. And he would bring my friends too. I had 5 or 6 of my friends, and I would hop into the car, and he'd bring us. And he didn't even care about sports. He liked the cheerleaders, and he liked the field goal kicker, being a soccer fan. And my dad was a swimmer and obviously a runner, because some of his escapes took a lot of running, and that's why Tom Cruise would play my dad in my eye, even though he's existentialist supposedly. So people don't like that viewpoint, but the hell with it. It'd be if Tom Cruise knew about this role. And he's getting up there. He's probably about my age too, but he still looks great and still doing movies. And he'd be my ideal. And Tom Hanks would be one of the nicer guards in the forced labor camp. You know what I'm talking about if you've read the book. So and Spielberg directs the movie, but I've already queried Spielberg, and they sent me a no, but it was a well-written letter, probably by his attorneys, and they sent back the book. Unfortunately, I wish he had read the book, but he doesn't do that anymore. He did Schindler, and he did the Shoah movie. And they said for legal reasons, and I get it. And you really run out of material to talk about. But in the case of myself and Amsterdam publishers, authors, and that's all they do is Holocaust and Holocaust genre and related. Some is about music, some about dancing. In my case, communism and Nazism. So there's so many stories that have been recharged and back out, and many of them are amazing and interesting. So including my dad's.
Yeah, no kidding. So speaking of which, and we need to talk after, because I might be able to introduce you to some people. But speaking of all of this, I'd love to hear more about your dad's story, because
Absolutely.
Talk about resilience and talk about fortitude. My word, he is a hero, really. You wouldn't be here had your dad not been the man that he was, right?
That's so true. I say that all the time. He wouldn't have been here. My mom had it was harrowing for her, but not the same. ironically, she was more of a Holocaust educator than my dad because he was busy with work, but they're also well connected in the medical community, the Jewish community, the community in general. So there's that too. But yeah, split second timing, his second escape right in front of Nazi headquarters in Budapest. What an amazing escape that was. I mean, that could have gone sour on them easily. Perfect timing. The luck. He even missed an escape. That's a teaser. He had 4 escapes, but he missed one under communist Hungary. Went to the wrong train station. He felt like he was the most unlucky guy in the world, and it turns out everybody who made the right train got arrested. So, including his medical school classmate. So I say the luck on this guy. You say the luck of the Irish, maybe the luck of the Jewish. I prefer to call it the hand of God. So that's a little teaser. As a child, he was kind of spoiled, and that's a lesson too. He was pampered. They had a maid. He never had to make his own bed. At this point, my dad's parents, were doing well, but they struggled to get to that point, and that's in the book too. How partly because they were Jewish, and partly because they didn't know if they want to live in Transylvania, Romania, or their native Hungary. So they ended up in Jura, a small town in northwest Hungary, near Austria, and that was a fateful decision for them. But growing up as a kid, my dad got beaten by his father if he underperformed academically or if he was late, and I didn't really realize that until the second time that I read the book. And I don't want to say too much, but that was a little bit of a surprise to me. Moving forward, he got kicked off the swim team because he was Jewish, and his dad lost a government job. First, he had reduced benefits, and then lost a government job as a dentist because he was Jewish. On and on and on. So, anti-Semitism in the background throughout the book. My dad in World War II, obviously, he's useful because he's a young man. So he's hauled off to forced labor camp with his friend Frank, and meets Frank at the camp, not on the trip. And Frank helped my dad survive too, because Frank was a man of integrity himself, like my dad, and we talk about that in our book presentation. Well received. That integrity got them really, really far along. So forced labor camp was tough. Anti-Semitism, of course. Some of the guards were brutal. They got urinated on. They get beaten. Digging tunnels, digging hills, digging holes for landmines, retrieving landmines. Sometimes just doing mindless duties that weren't helpful, just to keep them busy, just to keep them working. Moving railroad cars that were squeaky and rusty and couldn't move. Building runways for airports. Getting shot at by Russian airplanes while they had those ridiculous. They were unarmed, the men, and they were still getting shot at. And ridiculous gold armbands. We all know the yellow star, but they had these hats. That's all they had. They weren't allowed to have knives or guns, and they were considered inferior for the real military. So they were part of the paramilitary. And certain Christians were too, probably sympathizers. And as we all know, it wasn't just the Jewish people that were killed. There was disabled, there was LGBTQ, there were the elderly, the really young. Very, very sad stories, and that's a tough part of going through this is all that. So finally, the war ends, and he's had his 2 escapes. He was on the run. He was in hiding. Amazing what happens when the war ends for him, and his search for his parents, months long, very, very tough. A miracle how he found out what happened to his parents by an eyewitness months after the war. And other miracles, how he got into medical school was a miracle. And they had a quote: Jewish, only 10% of the classes could be Jewish, and he was smart enough, and he had the right. Another miracle. So, and kind of got through it, even though they were under communism, and he hated it, but he liked being a doctor. And then slowly but surely, he meets my mom, and they get married. Illegal Jewish wedding. I don't want to say too much. I think I already have, but my mom's uncle, a surgeon, he's chief of surgery at Budapest Hospital. He sponsors the wedding. They did the civil wedding, and the way my dad describes it was kind of, he may as well have gotten married at a Kentucky Fried Chicken or something. But but they had the real Jewish thing, and he got arrested for that. There was a KGB present in the house, and he got arrested for that. And part of it was Stalin was in charge at the time in 1953, and maybe it was part of the doctor's plot to kill Stalin, which was actually a myth started by a radiologist. So, and Stalin was I guess, demented and certainly paranoid. So maybe the uncle got arrested because of that. But you were not allowed to have a religious Jewish wedding. So 13 months of torture, sleepless nights, imprisonment, and then he got banished to a rural community health clinic. So So not every story is good, but my parents were on their honeymoon when we got arrested, and he came back a broken man. But he ended up in Sweden, had my cousin Susie, who just perished soon after the October 7th attacks, and she was in a coma. So that's only, I mean, she had renal failure for a long time, but she was in a coma. So as bad as it was for her to pass, at least she hopefully didn't know about what was going on in Gaza with all that. But she was the last survivor from the book. She passed in, I guess it's 2 years ago already now, almost 2 years, October 7th. And I was in Israel, by the way, the year before the attacks, and I never felt safe for it. It was such a wonderful place to go. And I recommend it to anybody. You don't want to leave. You know, I'm in Southern Florida, and I didn't want to come back here. It was so inspiring and so well integrated. It's always the 1% less. It's always one guy who ruins it for everybody. If we're going to talk about Hamas and Hitler and Pol Pot, and that's I'm trying to recruit that 99 percenters, 99+% of people that want good health, want good family, want to take a vacation, that kind of thing, just to stay on our side and not get dragged into the hatred thing. So communist Hungary gets a little turbulent too. 1956, there's an uprising. It's mostly students and very, very young people that they've had enough of communism. So they started the Hungarian Revolution in 56. It failed miserably. 3,000 people died in that war. Not a lot of people know about it. My parents became frontliners. My mom was a med student at the time, so she ran the blood bank. My dad was an OBGYN, and he had to double down as a trauma surgeon. So he was working for 2.5 weeks, 24/7, doing both his OBGYN duties and trauma. And after that war, and the communists winning and bringing all the tanks in, and the hardliners even more so, putting their feet down on everybody's neck, my parents decided to escape. And it would have been easier for them to escape during the war, but they had their duties, they had their obligation. They were closing down the borders, they were chopping down big trees to close off the roads. They had Russian planes and aircraft over the borders with lights on, trying to find people trying to escape. And but my mom and dad, that was quite harrowing. That my dad's fourth escape with my mom. His third escape was in med school. I'll let you read about that. But another harrowing story. Arguing with armed Russian soldiers, unbelievable. The guts on this guy, courage, and bluffing his way through and making it. So, Dad was intelligent. He had courage. It's very emotional, but it's also very inspirational. His determination to live, determination to be free. First, it was enough to be a doctor and practicing, but then it wasn't enough because communism. They were not much better to the Jewish people than the Nazis, short of corralling them into town squares and ghettos, and then hauling them off to be killed. Another thing that a lot of people know: Hungary had the fastest rate of genocide from mostly 1944. The war was going sour, and that's what happened in 1942. So I've read and heard that when the war was going sour for the Nazis, they were even more determined to kill more people because that was their play. Very systematic and very sad, including my dad's parents, of course. But since he was useful, he got through it, and he escaped and in hiding and working. Thank God for nice people, Christian and Jewish, that kept some of the valuables. So he had a little bit of gold, he had a little bit of money to go by, but not a lot. And the guys protecting him at the end of the war, even when the Arrow Cross was looking for the Jewish people, they were worse to the Jews. The Hungarians were worse to the Jews. The police and the government were worse than the Nazis were. So in Hungary, so really sad stuff. But he got through it, of course. And I don't know, what am I missing? There's so much in the book. I'm saying a lot, but you got to read the details. You got to read how it happened and say, oh my God, this could happen to you and me. By the way, I always say that. Whatever happened to my dad, light at the end of the tunnel we talk about, right? The light. No, when my dad escapes, it's in the middle of the mountains, in the middle of nowhere, freezing, loses his friend Frank. They decide to split. What happened afterwards was another miracle. Hearing the third guy who tried to escape with him get caught, and they're beating him, and dogs barking, and they're in the thicket, and all of that. I mean, so just amazing stories. And what I'm getting off the subject, but what happened to my dad could happen to you and me. It could be a bad neighbor, bad business deal, bad local government, federal government, foreign government, natural disaster, whatever. We could be homeless, could be on the run, not knowing where your next meal. That's what I say about the light at the end of the tunnel. They didn't know where the next meal was coming, where they were going to sleep, if they'd ever get a job again. And even if they return to civilization, of course they'd remove their yellow armbands, but still you're hunted. If you're a Jew, you're screwed. So there's no light at the end of the tunnel. And that's the lesson too, that what happened with my father and my mother could happen to any one of us. So not necessarily the same way, but as we see in Gaza and other terrorist attacks we've had, 9/11. People, some of these younger ones have denied not only the Holocaust, but also 9/11, which is ridiculous. I don't know where you get your information, but 3,000 people died from that, plus countless costs and collateral damage. We all know our TSA, that didn't exist. It was so much easier flying or traveling any other way. For example, security at Holocaust museums, that costs money, whatever the case may be. So a lot of that's changed. But I have to remind people that 9/11 was American targets. Christian people died, Jewish, Muslim, Asian, and it was very, very sad too. So, and then we can go back to the 6-Day War, the Yom Kippur War, all of these, and Iran just randomly attacked Israel after October 7th. Thank God it wasn't very successful relative to, unfortunately, the October 7th massacre, but there's a lot in it that resonates with today's world.
Yeah, yeah, it's so true. It's so true. And even the fact that your parents escaped to here, I always think that people need to be reminded that the reason people come to our country, to the United States, is because things are really bad where they're at. And like I do a lot of work in Haiti and some poverty-stricken areas in Dominican Republic and Burkina Faso, West Africa, Kenya, wherever. People are leaving. If I was a mom in Haiti, I'd do everything I could to get my kids over to the United States and they have some opportunity for a life, for an actual life, instead of living in fear. And that's what your parents did, is they escaped. It's not just we want to go to the US, it's we got to get out of where we are and go to a place where we can see a future possibly happening for us. And
Amen.
so,
You brought up two great points. I want to, if China is so great, North Korea and Iran and Russia today or whatever, if it's so great, why are people trying to escape? Why are they closing the gates and closing the borders if it's so great? You bring up another great issue that you're working with Haiti, and I meant to mention that earlier. Thank you for your service for that, by the way. Mitch Albom, Michigan guy, apparently I tried to query him about the book because my mom's neighbor knew his wife, so we tried to query, but it was an original story. But they said he was so busy with his pro bono work in Haiti. And he's a author hero of mine too, by the way, Mitch Albom. He used to do a sports program, and I've seen him on ESPN quite often. But thank you for your service for doing that. Same thing with him, and that's great. And I want to talk to you more about that afterwards too, because I think that's such a great thing. And it is an impoverished country. And yeah, there's a lot of Haitians down here in Florida. And when I'm in Boston, when I visit, a lot of Haitians are around there too. So they were lucky to get out. And when I hear their stories, that some of them are, the earthquakes and people shooting at planes and losing power and then you can't imagine the starvation and the poverty and the sickness, the illness. We don't talk about illness much in people that are prisoners, but my dad sure did. And I learned more about people having gangrene, women slave laborers from Hungary with gangrene. You should see and it's hard to even look at. So, the pictures of their legs. And for my dad, he had food poisoning, he had a foot infection. Doctor told him when he went, this was before his first escape, he got out of labor camp, and the doctor tells him, crappy hospital, unsanitary conditions. And the doctor says to him, I don't know, I shouldn't bother treating you anyway, because you're going to be dead. You'll be dead soon anyway, something like that, to paraphrase. So can you imagine your doctor saying that to you because you're Jewish? And that wasn't the guys that helped him leave the country were anti-Semitic. And believe me, my mom and dad wanted to argue with them left and right. But they knew better, that would just hurt their chances of getting the hell out. So they kept their mouths shut. Unbelievable. So just too much. It's so much. And as you can tell, I think it sounds like you've read the book. If you haven't, I know you will, because I think it's on audio too, by the way, if you're driving, or are you working pro bono with the Haitian and the West Africa, or are you?
Yeah. I don't get paid for it. Yeah, I run a nonprofit organization, and yeah. Well, and one of the things that it's taught me so much, right? Like anytime you go and you give, like we talked earlier about service, about serving other people, and I'll tell you, the very first time that I went to a third world, a developing nation, and went thinking I was going to go serve and help, what I got in return was so much greater than I could ever give. It's like you cannot outgive when you go and you do for anyone, anywhere. And so I just find that time and time again that not why I do it to get anything, but it's just the way God works, the way the world works, that you just get so much more out of anything. But man, the average Haitian needs 3 meals a week, and it is tough. And they're people. That's the thing to keep in mind. Your mom and dad, they're people. They were put into this category that made them seem less human than the rest, just like we did with slaves, just like we did with Israelites, just like we did with whoever, right, throughout the ages. And but nobody is less than. No, nobody is less than. I think is such a huge point that we're all walking on the same earth. We're all equal. We are all equal as far as value in humanity. We're all human. And so we need to keep that in mind. So just because somebody's from Haiti doesn't mean they're less intelligent, doesn't mean that they are not as hard workers, or there's some of the things that we like to put on people. It's not true. They've had less opportunity. A lot of people have had less opportunity than they would have had here had they been born here, lucky enough to be born here in the US. But it doesn't make them less than. And just like the Jewish people coming from Hungary, coming from Germany, coming from wherever, where there have been people that have said, hey, I'm on a pedestal and you're down there somewhere. There are no pedestals. The minute you think that you are greater or better than somebody else, there is no love there. And there is no humanity there. In my eyes, it actually knocks you down. Like I will never think anybody's less than anybody else. But man, just think before you speak and realize how important each person is. Each person, it takes a village, it takes us all to operate what we're operating on earth, right? And so be there, support and love each other. And yeah,
I couldn't agree more. The Haitians and Jamaicans are my favorite people down here in Florida. And you're right, they are hard workers, and a lot are doing construction and plumbing and gardening and landscaping. But some are bankers and lawyers, and they're just great people. I love their personalities and their demeanor, and everybody's entitled to that type of freedom, and that 3 squares a day, even 2 meals a day. The starvation part resonates with my dad doing hard labor all day and barely having enough food to survive. I mean, all of them. And lucky and having to walk an hour just to go get their meals or to go get their tools and back, plus dawn to dusk hard labor. So nobody deserves that. I also love the people here from Mexico, the islands, the other Caribbean islands, South America. We've got a ton of Canadians down here, and half is New York South, and I'm not gonna. New York has been the Yankees have been the Tigers rivals, the original 6, the Rangers and the Red Wings. We'll leave that on the field, but I love the New Yorkers too. The more I get to know people, we'll go back to the stay with the people that you like, that you get along with, that are going to keep you in a good plane, and let the toxic people go. So people are people, and God bless you for doing that. And like you said, they're amazing people, and I feel badly that they don't all get to go to medical school or law school or business school, but it's not for everybody either. So, but the smiles on their face. I mean, so many great people, not just during these podcasts, but in person, carrying my book around and talking to people about that. And I wish Haiti, I wish them a better outcome over time. Not just Haiti, Israel, Gaza, even these civilians. Finally, they're standing up against Hamas at their peril, I might add. Just the brutality there is, and that's a sad thing too. Over 80, 100 years, maybe 2,000 years, people find different ways to torture each other, to maim, to kill, to persecute, and it's unfathomable that people think like that. Because as a radiologist, as a doctor, we believe in the value of life, the beauty of the human anatomy, not just humans, cats, dogs, giraffes, and the preservation of life is the important thing. The beauty of the cell, the way we're all made up, the DNA. And these people would just chop your head off or shoot you or torture you in a heartbeat, in a second, with no respect, no thought, and laughing about it. And I've got some disturbing pictures from the Holocaust with people taking pictures of the people they're carting off. Schindler hits it pretty well when they've got this kid, this little girl shouting at goodbye Jews, and that's kind of what it is, this apathy. But pictures of that during Kristallnacht in 1938, there's a picture of a busted out window for a Jewish business, and this lady's walking by the building with a smile on her face. And I just can't imagine. It's a very disturbing photo that there would be that kind of apathy. And I feel that here sometimes too, not to that degree, but that's what we're trying to prevent is the apathy towards people and the apathy towards things like anti-Semitism and racism. So it is what it is, and we're trying to change it, and we're going to keep doing it until things start to go better, and hopefully they do.
Right, right. Well, it's interesting because people are raised a certain way, right? So, like my granddaughter, who's a senior, I've got plenty of grandkids, lots of them. I love them. But my granddaughter, who is a senior in high school, is her father is from Nigeria, and you'd never know that she was mixed. She just looks like a beautiful black girl, and the things that she's had to face and have been crazy
So
to
sad.
me.
So
Yeah,
sad.
yeah, she's brilliant. She's, over a 4.0. She's going to U of M, whatever. She's got her life laid out. But right, it's crazy that it exists, but it's coming from kids who are coming from homes where this is talked about and racism is a thing and anti-Semitism is a thing. And people that are raising their kids that way, right? Because that's maybe the way they were raised, or that's what their experience has been. And so all the more reason to get out of your bubble, get out of your neighborhood, get out of your box and meet other people and realize that people are people are people. No one better, no one less than, just love them all. I mean, and really it's our only job. I often think about that. I did this year where I dedicated an entire year to figuring out the true meaning of love. And the things that I found out just blew my mind and rocked my world. But one of the biggest truths about love is it's all you have to do. It's your only job. Whether you're a Christian or not, Jesus, they asked him, they said, hey, there's 542, 697, whatever laws in the Old Testament, sleep in the tent during certain times of the month and all the stuff, right? And like, what's the most important? How do we know when we're messing up, basically? And he said, love God, love yourself, and love people. That's all you have to do.
You bring up a great point. We talk about Jesus and Moses and MLK and Gandhi. The lessons that they taught were too late, or in some cases too late, because they were murdered or killed in brutal ways or whatever. So that's a good point you bring up, because that's I'm trying to do this before it's too late, and hopefully the messages, even when I'm long gone, still keep resonating. Also what you said is important. I bring that up a lot. Education starts at home. Love and hate are learned at home. Nurturing relationship, an open relationship with your kids, educating, diversifying, being well-rounded. That's also important. My job is to educate too. I say this all the time as well, that I want the book to be taught in classrooms more so. I've got my first university talk coming up, University of South Carolina, next month. I'm so excited about that. Hopefully it's an icebreaker. I get more of them. I'm doing a lot of presentations anyway, and much of the audience are kids too, which I like. The other thing is, when your daughter goes to the University of Michigan, normally I'd say, boy, she's going to be in a whole different environment. She's going to meet a whole new bunch of brilliant people, different interests, and she should feel safer. She should feel less harassed. I hope to meet her someday. It sounds like she's a fantastic person as well. But I would say that. But now lately, with the universities and the protests, including Michigan, I haven't heard much about University of Michigan lately. They have a new Holocaust director apparently, and my bucket list is long about phone calls and reaching out. But it'd be great to do a book presentation there in my alma mater. And also, I'm in talks with Yale through the Alumni Association, Medical Alumni. So that would be a great one too. Damn, I need to get back to them. But I'm so backlogged with everything. So I need an assistant. I do it all myself. But yeah, I think she'll do fine. I mean, she goes to school. You're busy in your classroom, your dorm, the cafeteria, the library, and yeah, maybe you'll go to a football game or a basketball game and enjoy Ann Arbor because it's such a beautiful city. Go to Zingerman's for a great deli. We used to go to Middle Kingdom, which was my favorite Chinese back then. I don't know if they're still around. Gandy Dancer, what a great restaurant that is. I guess it's still around. Somebody mentioned it recently. But enjoy life. Enjoy the fact that you can be educated. Don't if you want to protest about something important, that's fine, but not genocide, not the death of America, death of Israel. We've talked about that too. So it sounds like your daughter's going to do just fine, and I'm sorry to hear that too, because I wasn't like that. I would have been vulnerable as a kid to pick on a young African American kid or or Asian kid, and it's wrong. I just wasn't. I'm not comfortable with that. It's not appropriate. Even as captain of the swim team, the younger kids. So we used to get bullied when I was a freshman on the swim team, but by the time I was a senior, junior, senior, I was a captain. I tried to engage the younger ones more, to help them with their stroke, help them learn about life in general. And again, with the burning the bridges, this kid 2 years younger than me, Charlie, was a professor at University of South Carolina, and he's the one who helped me get this first book presentation. So you don't burn your bridges, and just be kind to people, and you're right, because once you feel like you're above everybody, that's the beginning of your demise. That's God sees that, I think, and because when I've had that feeling of elation, or feeling of better than now, or just the next day sucks, whatever. So, or I get a bad note, or a bad letter, or a racial. I get that too sometimes, and that's. I mean, I let it go. I got a thick skin, a thick back, because I'm a radiologist. Over all these years, I can take criticism, and I can take the no, like we said, but not getting ghosted. That's the worst. But people that are arguing with me online, I just delete them. I try not to get in these arguments. It's not going to help me. It's not going to help them, and it's sad. But you get those after you'll have a good day and a bad day. So you're right. I mean, that is when you feel like you're in the top of the mountain, you better look down, because that's where you're heading next. You can't do better.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Our time is up. I can't believe it. This hour has just gone by so quickly.
It has.
And I've loved it. I've loved our conversation. This has been so great. Thank you so much for being here. Tell people again how they can get your book, how they can contact you, how they can get you to come and speak, and all the stuff.
Well, I want to thank you again, Kim. I really owe you a big hug. And lunch or dinner sounds really good. We'll have to talk about that, but at least I can do. Hopefully, if you connect me with a few others to do podcasts, Zooms, live presentations, it'd be a hug and a kiss, a nice big kiss on the cheek, or both cheeks. It all helps, because I can't fight anti-Semitism alone, as you know, and that's why we're recruiting as many people as we can. So, Not a Real Enemy, the true story of a Hungarian Jewish man's fight for freedom. If you Google Not a Real Enemy, if you Google Robert J. Wolf, MD, you'll find me. I have a YouTube channel, Not a Real Enemy, Robert J. Wolf, MD. I forget the exact name, but it's a variant. A lot of content. My website is Robert J. Wolf, MD, and that's got a lot of good content, videos, TV interviews, video pitches, podcasts. It's got separate videos about the Hungarian Revolution and Nazi Hungary a little bit too. So a lot of good content there. I'm on socials across the board. You can find me Rob Wolf on Meta, or Not a Real Enemy by Robert Wolf on Meta. That's Facebook author page, whatever you call it. I'm on X, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram, Blue Sky, and TikTok most recently. Maybe not as helpful, but as far as I'm concerned, it's a new set of eyes to learn about I would love to go viral on TikTok, but for the right reason, books over boobs, because it's competitive, and and it's competitive business. It's a tough, fickle business, because you are competing for not the entertainment dollar, but the entertainment time. Netflix and Hulu and travel and golf and fitness. So, and a lot of people don't read books, and a lot of people don't want to read about this type of book. So it's very tough, but I don't think you'll be disappointed. We've queried producers. There's more on that later. We'll see what happens. But everybody says maybe it should be a docu-series, documentary, maybe even a feature film. From Their Mouths to God's Ears. I thought that kind of myself when I started this adventure. We'll see. But yeah, Google Not a Real Enemy, or Google Robert J. Wolf, MD. Find me on socials. Invite me. Excuse me. I don't say no to anything. If you're in Alaska, if you're in South Africa, you want me to do a program, preferably 2 for that kind of trip, but I wouldn't say no. Just did the JCC out of Ottawa, Long Island Holocaust Museum. That was a travel trip. That was a live presentation. And the Chicago, Illinois Holocaust Museum. That was a great program. Twice in DC. Hopefully more coming.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully more coming, because people got to know. And I'll say this to our audience, that I guarantee you will love this book. I guarantee it so much that if you do not, write to me and I'll send you your money back, because it is a great book. Yeah, it is a great and people need to know. People need to understand, because I think too, in reading things like this, you have so much better understanding of humanity, of people, of realizing that people have gone through stuff, and you never know where people are at on any given day. So be kind, just like you said. And thank you so much again for joining me. Thank you out there for joining us today.
Thank you.
And
Kim.
I just want to say to you, just keep your heart open and your love loud.